Hi there, I'm Debbie Levitt. My company is called Delta CX Coaching, so you can find us at deltacx.coach. I am an American living in Italy.
And how long ago did you answer the call to coach?
The integrative intelligence program is something I've been juggling in my mind for too many years. And so it's something that I've always thought of doing. And so finally, I jumped on it in 2024 and decided to sign up for both the level one and level two educational programs.
And what do you feel has really contributed to your success in the coaching profession?
I think some of what's working well for me as I get to know all of this stuff is really that my background has been a lot of consulting, but my background has also been in user research. So usually I am talking to people. I have to ask them curious questions. I can't lead them down a particular path. I have to be solution agnostic. I can't push my way on someone. And so I think what makes my transition a really good match to coaching. It just happens to be some of who I think I am naturally and some of my previous work experience.
How do you foresee that shaping your success? Or maybe you've already noticed that.
There were so many things I thought I knew about coaching that I didn't. And so it's been a really fun and interesting program to really dive deeper into, again, stuff you think you know. You think you know how to coach someone, and then when you really start getting into a good program, hashtag not sponsored, nobody's paying me to say this. When you really start getting into a good program, you really start understanding how much you don't know. And I think that's part of the journey as well. And so I can't help but recommend it.
What do you think is the number one thing that you've learned so far?
What is the number one thing I've learned so far? One of the things that has struck me the most is the attention to detail that coaching makes sense to go into. So for example, we're learning to go into metaphors, we're learning to go into language. I think a lot of us take it at face value. If someone says, "I felt free," you go, "Yeah, cool, free, whatever. I think I know what that means, whatever." But in coaching, you're encouraged to say, well, what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you? And I think that allows the client so much space to explore what they mean with their words and their metaphors. And so some of that content, which was from the level two side, I think was really appealed to me because it gives me the chance to ask more questions and let people define and redefine their worlds.
You touched on this a little bit, but how does it feel to be a successful coach?
Are you ever totally successful? Like to me, it's the journey that never ends, and I'm just starting on it. And so I think it feels like, why didn't I do this earlier? This was something that I always wanted to do. When I was little, I was the kid that everyone thought would become a psychologist, but it wasn't a path that I took. And I realized later as an adult, I didn't take that path because there's only so much of other people's trauma I think I can accept into my space. And especially as someone, we all have traumas, and so this is real and there's therapy for that. But I didn't know there was another modality where I could be that helpful, inspiring person. Like I like to say, I like to help push people's boats out and make sure they know how to row them. And I didn't know that there was a modality that I could go into where I could fulfill that calling without necessarily having to dig into people's worst moments.
You talked about how you always, want to be in this boat. And I'm curious, what was it that finally made you start the motor and go for coaching?
Yeah, it was in 2024. I was between jobs and I was kind of having one of those, like, what would Laurel do moments? And I was thinking about my life purpose. And I've always said, even before I met Laurel, that my life purpose is to be a catalyst to others. And so I started thinking about if I wanted to move my career in some fresh directions, whether or not I'm leaving something else or just branching out, what can I do that would allow me to realize that purpose of being able to be a catalyst to others? And so that's where the coach training kind of popped back up on my radar.
Did you do level one previously and now you're going back into level two?
No, I signed up for both. And so I did them back to back. I guess must have started in November 2024, and classes, or maybe it's October 2024, and classes will end in early April 2025. And you and I are recording that just a few weeks before.
Love it, love it. And you must have known Laurel before that.
Yeah, Laurel's been my life and business coach since 2006. I think I was technically one of her first clients and have stuck with her all this time. So to me, it was not really a matter of having to choose a school. It was just a matter of, when do I finally do this?
And looking back on it, what do you wish that you knew then that you know now?
I just wish I knew that this whole course and approach was going to be a good match to me, and that there wasn't a good reason to delay this. I think there's a lot of pieces of me that says, "Oh, you waited 10 years too long to do this." And so I think that even if I hadn't transitioned into full-time coaching, it's still something I could have brought into other work that I've done. And so the even if you don't have immediate success with coaching, these are still skills and approaches and ideas that you'll bring into other things. So I guess I do kick myself a bit for putting it off.
So somebody that's watching this now, what would you tell them about the institute or about coaching that might be helpful for them to understand?
Think, given some of the questions people have asked me about my experience in the school, the first thing I would say is that there's nothing in the curriculum that is religious or spiritual or woo woo. You're not going to be doing astrology stuff. You're not going to be talking about anybody's particular religion or spirituality. It's just up to us to support our clients wherever they are with that. But there's nothing in the curriculum that says, oh, if you're going to be a coach, then you have to do it this certain way, or believe in this certain thing. And so I think that's one thing that probably held me back a little, was an incorrect assumption, and might be holding others back as well. So that's one thing that I would inspire people to shake off and not be afraid of. Other than that, I would have to know what people are afraid of to correctly advise them with my advising hat on and not my coaching hat on, of course. But I think that's one thing that probably blocked me a bit.
And if you could use one word that describes your experience as a successful coach, what would that one word be?
I'm going to have to go with evolution. I want to say catalyst because that's my life purpose, but when I think about the work that I've started doing with my early clients, because we're encouraged to do coaching even while we're learning, just watching them evolve, watching them shift and change and try new things and break out of old ways of thinking and patterns. I think it's the evolution that I find kind of most interesting and exciting, and in that sense rewarding.
How has this really enhanced your current business?
I had been doing consulting for quite a while, kind of consulting and advising in more of the business realm. I had hundreds of hours of that before I started doing the more ICF style coaching. The good part of that is that that was a good group of people to go to and say, "Hey, I'm now doing this other style, who's interested?" Because honestly, I found that I couldn't really go to friends and family and get them interested in that, because I think a lot of people didn't want that relationship with me. But people who already saw me as a bit of a trusted advisor or consultant were like, "Ooh, Deb's doing this style of coaching now. I'll give it a try." And especially since I was making the first call free, hey, why not? And so I think that shifting, or at least transitioning from other work, which I'm still doing, gives me the opportunity to have that sort of first group of people that I can turn to, and they've already started referring me to other people. And so that's been a nice growth area, especially so early in the process. So yeah, coaching, consulting, and what I thought was coaching and advising for a squillion years, and now shifting into a different style where, hey, I'm not going to tell you what to do. And for some people that was tough, and sometimes for me that's tough.
Is there anything that you would like to talk about with your coaching practice or anything that you'd like to share?
For now, right now, I'm offering the first two calls free. The first is more of a kind of an intake, get to know you, what is coaching. And then the second call is an actual coaching session so that you can experience it. These are currently totally free. You can find them on deltacx.coach. And then we really take it from there. And there is no program. You're not locked into any number of sessions or type of program. I just want to meet everybody where they are. That's the Catalyst way. And so it's not like you have to show up with anything other than, do you have a goal? Do you have a personal goal? Do you have a work goal? Do you have a development goal? And let's just push that boat out. So you don't have to do a lot of prep work. But if I would have to say that I have a specialty, I would probably say that my specialty in some cases would be people who need some help and some coaching around some of their career choices. Some of that can get a little bit advisory, some of that can get a little bit coachy. So, there is a little bit of an overlap there, but I'm still doing both and I'm doing my best to keep them separate, but sometimes there's a little overlap. All you have to do is go to the deltacx.coach site, think about which style of coaching might suit you best, and book your free call right there. So come say hi, it's free.